I'm going to give you the first 5 accessories you need for your brand new paddle fishing kayak. What's up everybody, Gramps here with another video on our beginner kayak fishing series. In this video we're going to talk about the first 5 essential accessories you need for your brand new fishing kayak. We've talked about things to consider when buying your first fishing kayak. We've talked about places to shop and ways to save money when hunting for your new fishing kayak. But now you finally have it. I'm sitting here with my Old Town Sportsman 106 paddle kayak. We're going to continue this series by kitting this kayak out and sharing with you our experiences we've learned over the last 10 years of kayak fishing. A lot of these accessories I didn't even start out with because honestly I just didn't know better. So I'm going to help you learn from my mistakes so you can get started out the right way. What's the first thing you need for your paddle fishing kayak? Well, let's start with the paddle. And honestly, my first mistake. This is a Pelican paddle that I started with. It's the most inexpensive version that you can find at any of the box stores. And honestly, I used this to get around for, the first few years, as did my sons. But times and technology change over the years. And now we have brand new paddles, such as this Bending Branches, that's actually made of carbon fiber. A lot of people don't want to spend the money on a paddle like this when they're first getting started, but let me tell you what, you invested in a quality fishing kayak. If you wear yourself out after going from where you put in to where you want to fish and you got no juice left in the tank, part of that is because you're basically using an old school boat oar versus something like this, which will make your day and a longer day on the water much more enjoyable. Remember, when you get out on the water, you still have to get back. And a good quality paddle, again, this was a mistake I made early on. A good quality paddle, highly recommend you start with. Now, there are other various brands between, say, this Pelican and this Bending Branches. Get the best that you can afford. Like you did with your kayak, look for sales, look for people getting out of the sport, look for somebody even looking to upgrade for something even better than this. But I'm telling you what, a carbon fiber paddle makes all the difference in the world on your day of fishing. You're out dealing with the wind, the current, other boats, boaters, things like that. A good quality paddle will make the difference. But I get it, sometimes you just don't, you can't afford it. If you're young and athletic and you can handle one of these, do what you got to do to get out on the water. Next up, PFD. A lot of states you're required to have PFDs in your kayak or your boat, and a lot of people will put them behind their seat. And honestly, one of the things I regret the most back in my early days, I did this with me and my sons, we kept basic PFDs or life jackets like this little cheap one in the back of our kayaks in case we needed them. Now, the boys were good swimmers, but me, I'm still older and all that. But I mean, most of the places we fished were, somewhat shallow, muddy water places. But honestly, that's not an excuse. When I got into tournament fishing and it got to be around a whole lot more kayak anglers, everyone wears a PFD. And hearing stories from other people, because a lot of times you just kind of ignore it if it doesn't affect you. But I mean, there was recently, this last year, a kayak angler who was down fishing at the Bassmaster Series, happened to be out on the water at the same time the guys in the boats were there for the Bassmaster Classic. He hit an object in the water and got thrown out of his boat. And, he's always been a strong swimmer. And the water was cold and it took his breath away. And honestly, if it really wasn't for a Bass Pro, I don't remember the guy which one it was. It was a name that you would know. Saw the guy come out of the kayak and into the water and knew that hypothermia was a real deal. And like the guy said, he was an Olympic class swimmer when he was younger and still in really good shape, but the water took his breath away and he was really hurting. Had that bass boater not been there to pull him out, it could have been a whole different story. And sadly, we see stories every single year of somebody coming out of a kayak. And it's not always the angler's fault. There's boaters that go fly by that can tip people over. I ran into a situation last year where I was going through a lake and there was a bunch of submerged trees and I ran up on it and it tipped me and almost sent me out of the kayak. There was another situation where one of the lady anglers that lives up in northern Indiana was in a pretty fast moving river current and hit something in the water and kind of turned her sideways and tipped her into another tree. and she ended up actually rolling out of the kayak and losing all of her stuff, but her PFD, you know, saved her and kept her on top of the water. It's just different situations, different times. It's things you don't realize, and stuff I didn't realize for several years, again, until I started fishing in kayak tournaments and was around a lot more anglers and kind of started hearing more of these stories. So for me, number one, if you're fishing with me, you're wearing a PFD. If not, we ain't going out together. It's just the way it is. Honestly, get a PFD. Now, again, you can start out with one of the cheap ones if that's what your budget affords. They also have ones we see a lot of boaters wear, where if you get into the water, you can pull on the handle and it will inflate. But these are good for a lot of people who don't like a big, you know, bulkier life jacket. And PFD, like with a lot of the pockets, it's kind of more of a minimal approach, but it's got an air canister in here that inflates this if you come out and into the water. They also sell a little more expensive models where it'll auto inflate if you tip out, and you know, will automatically inflate. I keep a couple of these in the boat along with this other one to meet the state requirements, but then to make sure everybody has a PFD in there. But for kayak fishing, for me, and this is why I'm actually wearing this one, because I am wearing the NRS Chinook, one of my favorites. There are several different brands that make, you know, others similar to this. The NRS Chinook is just my favorite one. They actually make these in big guy sizes, which is why I really, really like it. It's got a flotation device that's high on the back, so it sits above the kayak seat. And I literally wear this all day long. It doesn't matter if it's 20 degrees out and we're fishing, or if it's, you know, 97, 98, 99, with proper fishing shirts and things like that. But this thing, it doesn't really hold the heat. It stays kind of cool all day long. You wouldn't think it, but it actually does. I like having all the extra pockets. When I'm out, I normally keep my truck keys zipped up in this one. As you can see, I got the remote from my other kayak in here. I've also got a wacky rig tool and other things. I'll keep my phone in this pocket on a leash, and, you know, for taking our pictures and, you know, talking to everybody. Line cutters, you know, scissors. We're not going to get into all those accessories. That's for future videos. But, you know, I'm just showing you this is how easy and comfortable this is to wear. And as you see, I've already got a second one for, you know, when I lose the rest of this belly and I need to go down for another size. But honestly, I also keep this one in case I'm taking one of my sons out, or another veteran that I'm taking out on the water in case he doesn't have a PFD. But, you know, I keep a couple of these just in case. Better safe than sorry. But yeah, accessory number must have accessory number 2, a PFD. Do it, save a life. Critical accessory number 3, a whistle. You wouldn't think it, but it's vastly important. I came to a situation last year on Patoka Lake fishing the GRBY Championship. No cell phone signal area. Got high stuck on a stump. Couldn't call anybody for help. Really didn't want to get out of the kayak because I was in the middle of the channel, 50 yards either way from the bank. I keep one on my vest now to get people's attention from long distance. But then I also have this one, which is more of the old school time, kind of like the referee whistle for used to keeping this other PFD. Crucial accessory number 4, something for wind management. When you're in a paddle kayak, a couple of things that you have to deal with the most are current and wind. And you need some kind of anchoring system to keep you in place, because if you're spending all your time paddling, you're not doing any fishing. So let's talk about one of the basic things for that most kayak anglers end up installing on their kayak. And I'll be installing on this Old Town 106 here in a future video. This is called an anchor trolley system. What it is, it's a set of pulleys that run to the front, the back of the kayak, and has a ring on it that lets you move the position of the ring to your anchor towards the front, or towards the back, or towards the center. If we look at this little graphic right here, you can see that where you position the ring with the anchor through it in your kayak actually helps you control which direction you point the kayak, so you can anchor yourself in the current or the wind and continue the fish in the direction that you want. It's a really cool concept they came up with years ago. You don't see them a whole lot these days, but again, a great accessory to have on any and every paddle kayak. And like I said, I'll be installing this one on this 106 here in the very near future. Now, how do you deploy line and anchor down through here? Well, you got a couple of different ways. I have a Yak Attack rope here that's got a couple of different anchoring mounts. You can mount it to the rail accessories here on the kayak. It's got a little hook to hold the line in place. You just connect this D-ring to your anchor. You can use a dumbbell. A lot of people like using 5-pound kettlebells. that you can buy at any sporting goods stores, things like that. But you know, a nice easy anchor rope is one of the ways that we kind of do that. One of my favorite anchors is one that's called Da Bomb, made by Da Bomb Anchor Company, and they have these heavy poured lead balls that are great for dropping down. I think this one's like a 6 or 8 pound. You're not really going to go anywhere with something like this. But other anchors that you can use, chains are good, especially in the rivers. Again, we're going to do all kinds of videos on these various accessories in more depth. This is just the first 5 things you get right away. So you got an anchor line and you got a good anchor. One of the best solutions if you want to spend a little bit of money is the Anchor Wizard. This thing is flat out awesome. You can take this and run it off the back of your boat, or run it off the front of your boat, or if you buy a second one of these, you can turn it in position whichever way you think you're going to be fishing that day. A lot of people fishing in the rivers like to run it off the front because you want to be casting up current or upstream and bringing the bait back to you. But yes, the Anchor Wizard is another awesome accessory that will be going on the Sportsman 106. And last but not least, certainly not least, a bilge pump. If something happens when you're out on the water and you start taking on water, say you hit a stump or something in the water that can slice your kayak, you need some way to get back to your vehicle, a bilge pump so you can pull off on shore and pump the water out. Now, this is the second bilge pump that I just bought for this kayak, and one of the things I like to do is find duct tape that's 4 inches wide, and I will wrap around 10 to 12 inches of that 4-inch duct tape all up this thing. That gives me an emergency patching kit if I need it. I actually have that done over there in my other Kayak, but I didn't dig it out to show it. But again, a bilge pump is something that you want to keep with you just in case you or a buddy have an emergency. Had a situation happen at the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship where my buddy had one of the anchor trolley eyes come out of his kayak, and what he didn't know was it tore a little hole and was filling his kayak up with water. He was lucky to beach himself and get over to the side, but it took him a good long time to drain all of that water out of his kayak. If he'd had a bilge pump, he'd have been able to get back underway just that much faster and had some duct tape to cover that eye to keep more water from coming in. So yes, an important accessory, a bilge pump. Make sure you have one. I didn't even know really about these things until I saw a video from Chad Hoover and felt compelled that I just had to make this the number 5 accessory that you have to have. Now don't get me wrong, there are literally hundreds of various kayak fishing accessories. We're going to have videos that go into all the different details, from kayak clothing to boots, to rod holders, crates, nets, covers, batteries. The list goes on and on and on and on. There are tons of great accessories out there to make your kayak fishing life just that much better. And we'll get to those in future videos. But for this video, the first 5 that you have to start out with. If you happen to be watching this video and you're getting ready to go pick up your first kayak and you're looking for a few other things you might want to grab, I would say a tow rope, maybe a kayak cart, a sponge for emptying out water, and yes, you're going to get water inside your fishing kayak. Condensation, little droplets getting in here and there. But again, we're going to cover all of those in future videos. And yes, we're going to do a complete build series on this. I've got all kinds of accessories waiting to go onto this kayak. Cover, fish finder, batteries, rod holders, crates, all kinds of goodies just to make this thing a fully rigged out fishing kayak. So stay tuned for future videos. Now, if you haven't bought your fishing kayak yet and you're looking for the things to consider before you buy, watch my video right here to get a clue before you go. If you're looking for where to buy a kayak or how to save some money when you're doing it, check out this video right here. Until next time, get outside when you can and make some memories. One cast at a time.